Welcome to the Intercut Awards here on the Intercut podcast channel. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, my colleague at Half Price Waterhouse, it's Arturo Zurita.
All the envelopes have been opened, we've been sifting, we've gone through it all. Which I think it's been, if we're totaling the amount that Intercut has seen altogether, 600, 700 movies, and we're not even counting the shorts. Yeah. We're not even counting the franchise rewatches of the first times. 650 fresh new movies I think we have that are going to be split up into all these categories.
Yeah, we have gone through all the potential nominees, and we have determined with our brains the most deserving winners, nominees, collection of talented individuals across several different categories, because you can't always trust the Oscars to make these decisions. Sometimes you have to take it into your own hands.
Yeah. You shouldn't even trust us. Watch every single one of these movies once we give them to you as well.
Exactly. We have been talking about movies all throughout the year. We really try to do our best to spotlight some things that maybe are not on everybody's radar, things that are just deserving of more attention. And you know what? We're also going to take time to celebrate some of the movies that everybody knows and loves. But among all those movies we've discussed, I think we came to a collection of some really exciting films here across several different categories. And some movies are even things that maybe are things we don't love, but we love some aspects about them. Or things we love, but we just had to find a way to squeeze them into certain categories. So I think the total movies that we're mentioning are a pretty great place to start when you're looking at what made the last year of Movie Special.
We got festival coverage for when we first saw these movies. We have first reviews. We got after credit reviews. We have everything that you need to know about these movies already on the channel for sure. This is a list from category to category just to remind you what the staples were of this year. If anything, even if 0 people watch it, which I know at least our moms will, this is a video that years from now, Zach and I look back on and we know that it's everything. Above our top 10, it's all of the movies that define the year for us.
Absolutely. And this year, we have a new addition to the Intercut Awards because it's not just our awards. We're getting the Intercutie, Intercutie, whatever you want to say, however you want to pronounce it. We're hearing from you because we don't want to just know what our favorites are, but we want to know what all of you chose. We did the voting, we tabulated it all up, and we've determined what our viewers loved the most. And we even are getting some help from a select few Intercuties who volunteered to the task. This video will be shared with all of them, so we are very thankful to all of them for their contributions. But without further ado, I think we've got some awards to give out, so we should get things started with the Best Documentary Feature category.
Our first category is going to be for documentaries. And unlike the Oscars that only give you 5, I mean, these are feature films, so we had to include a whopping 10 to define our 10 documentaries of the year. At number 10, we have one of the most disgusting ones, and De Humani Corporis Fabrica, that goes through the human body. At number 9, we keep on the human body with Smoke Sauna Sisterhood, a movie that gets into therapy at a sauna where everyone's naked, but you get into what they're talking about. At number 8, we have The Eternal Memory, one of the saddest movies out there, but also a testament to love that was shot from different angles, archival footage, recorded footage, and even the new footage that was done to tell the story of these two lovers. At number 7, we have Going to Mars, a Nikki Giovanni movie, one that's so poetic about a poet who talks about how life could be different if we went up. Number 6 is Kokomo City, a very devastating yet also very funny documentary about a group of trans women who work in Kokomo City. At number 5, we have the Hulu miniseries. I just had to include one out there. I know the Oscars have different rules, but here on Intercut, at number 5, we have Dear Mama, something that would have gone a lot further if rules weren't changed, but it talks about Tupac Shakur specifically with his relationship to his mom, and it is told in a way that none of these other documentaries have been able to do with talking heads. At number 4, we have Four Daughters, one that was nominated for the Oscar and relays everything that happened to this family in a style where it's them directing actors playing the missing sisters that now make up the Four Daughters. For our top 3, we have 20 Days in Mariupol, the Oscar-winning documentary that actually had the director, right there in the front lines for 20 days, gathering all of the footage that you've been seeing everywhere. He is the original source, and he combined it all to make a feature for his time on the ground. And number 2, we have Still, a Michael J. Fox movie telling you the story of Michael J. Fox, and honestly how he never stood still back in the day to what he's going through now. And at number 1, we have A Still Small Voice, the number 1 documentary for us this year that just covers someone who actually gives a damn about her profession. And that's why we have to give it to A Still Small Voice.
Yeah, I think when we caught this one back at Sundance 2023, it immediately became clear that this was going to be one of the standout films of the year for us. And for me, at least, it never left that top slot. We were also lucky enough to get Luke Lorenzen, the director of the film, and Kellen Quinn, the producer of the film, to come on the show and do an interview. And we're not giving the award to this film because of that. We got them on because we love that film so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's why the other 9 don't have interviews because they weren't number 1.
Exactly.
But, that's one. As I was saying, it's about a caretaker, someone who works, a chaplain at a hospital, where everything that she does to be able to help these people is the complete opposite of what running the business of a hospital is. Mm-hmm. And that clashing it's just perfectly captured by him in the most beautiful ways. He previously did make our list when it came to the Sundance feature Midnight Family, which I think is also getting a narrative series on Apple TV Plus, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of Zach's favorites, so this continues to be one of the documentarians that makes his list and makes our collective number 1 here on the Intercut Awards.
Let's keep going with the Intercutie choice for the best documentary feature of 2023.
G'day, my name is Lachlan from the Quiet on Set podcast, and I'm here to present the nominees and winner for best documentary. The top 5 nominees as chosen by the Intercuties were 20 Days in Mariupol, Beyond Utopia, 4 Daughters, Kokomo City, and Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. And the award for Best Documentary goes to 20 Days in Mariupol. Very deserving win, in my opinion.
Even though you haven't seen it.
I will watch it.
For the Intercut Award for the Best Animated Feature of 2023, these are our top 7 nominees. In 7th, we had Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, the wonderful claymation film from Aardman. In number 6, we have Migration, a film that Art really loved from Illumination Studios. That has some impeccable voice acting from a group of comedians who are at their best in this film. At number 5, we have Leo, the Adam Sandler family comedy with some fun songs and really fun animated bits. At number 4, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, the incredibly fun ensemble movie done in a similar style to films like Spider-Verse. The Boy and the Heron makes our top 3 animated films of the year, the latest and potentially last, although we hope it's not so, film from Hayao Miyazaki. The number 2 best animated film of 2023 is going to Netflix's Nimona, an incredibly vibrant, spunky, fun film that we got earlier this year. But at number 1, no one was going to end up competing with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, an incredible follow-up to the last film and just an incredible piece of animated filmmaking. Art, why is this the clear choice for our number 1 in animated feature?
It's the clear choice because as we went through a bunch of the other categories, we were trying to fit this into things anywhere it could fit, honestly, because from its score, from its animation to its voice acting, I think it delivers on so many fronts, down to the fact that its story is able to flip what a sequel is supposed to be, what the canon of a character is supposed to be. And it's one that I know we're going to be talking about years to come because the whole year has passed and we're still talking about this one. So I'm excited to have it not just at number 1 here, but to have it appear in other spots.
Yeah,
very soon.
This is the one animated film that truly transcended categories for us. It elevated to that extent, and obviously there are many things to appreciate about the myriad of animated movies that we've talked about. But there's something undeniable to how exquisitely crafted, how creative and forward thinking this is. It it is in the superhero genre, but transcending it and going forward thinking in a way that even our big blockbusters aren't capable of matching right now.
Easily. So now let's cut over to the Intercuties to see if their spidey senses tingled just like ours did.
Hi there. My name is Smada, aka Barry Egan Sue, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominees and winner for Best Animated Feature. The top 5 nominees as chosen by the Intercuties were Boy and the Heron, Nimona, Robot Dreams, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. But the winner of 2024's Intercutie Award for Best Animated Feature goes to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Wow, 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 was that a wonderful film. Feel like you need to see that 10 times to understand it once. Had a lot going on. My second pick was Boy and the Heron. Got a little Spirited Away music box that my brother got me from Japan that I'm loving. But thank you for it to Intercut for letting me do this category, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Next up, we have a category that we're playing a little bit different. This is Best International Movies Plus. This is the ones that we wanted to add because if it's an international movie, a foreign language film, it's already on this list in several other places. So if we don't make too many mentions of those movies, we wanted to have a category that was going to spotlight them. So starting from the bottom, these are international films that we believe should still be on your radar. From Totem, the movie from Mexico that got shortlisted, telling the story of a young girl finally coming to when she realizes all the things that are happening around her. The Settlers, which tells the story of a bunch of sheep herders who don't realize that the line that they're creating isn't really for sheep to get from point A to point B, but how they're going to create the new Chile. Concrete Utopia was almost pretty much a graphic novel that showcased what happened when society collapses and the only people who are left to be in charge is anyone who owned a home. Return to Dust is a devastating story from China that talks about these farmers that live out in the middle of nowhere and really just have each other in order to survive. Society of the Snow is a similar story, but they're traveling somewhere before they get stranded in a place where they have to struggle to survive. Other People's Children was a standout from Sundance that I had on my radar for a very long time as a woman who's never had children of her own starts to become a mother to those outside of her. Godland is an impeccable journey through a bunch of Europe where a priest is trying to spread his message, not realizing that he is not ready for the turmoil that's going his way. For our top 5 picks, we have a slew that came from around the world, like Denmark's selection, which was The Promised Land, about a bastard potato farmer who was doing everything he can to make potatoes come from a place that they were never supposed to, but it was his promised land. At number 4, we have The Beasts or Bestias, which comes from Spain, and it is one of the best thrillers of last year that has a man who's moved to a place where a company wants to buy out everybody's home, but he chose not to, and everybody there doesn't like this person who came from the outside. At number 3, we have A Fire, which comes from Germany, which tells the story of a very angsty screenwriter who doesn't realize that he's thinking too much of himself, especially when local fires start taking over the place. At number 2, we have The Teacher's Lounge, which is a great thriller from Germany, where a teacher realizes that somebody may be taking stuff from the teacher's lounge, so she decides to film everybody, which may be more illegal than someone taking the thing she thought from the teacher's lounge. But at number 1, we have one that is going to be at a couple of other categories, but I had to put it number 1 here because it was so underappreciated. Korieda's Monster, a movie that came from Japan that obviously had other selections that they were turning in, but Monster tells a story that I don't want to spoil. In fact, I think film festivals spoiled it just by putting it in certain categories and labels, but it's one that you need to go in fresh because Korieda's made our list every single year, and Monster is no exception. So that is our selections for the International Plus. I know you had some other thoughts before we get into sound.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of great international movies we didn't mention here, a couple from France that will absolutely come up in some of our other awards. But even though, as you mentioned, we will be talking about Monster later during these Intercut Awards, I feel like it has been one of the best international films that has been largely overlooked by a lot of the places that we expect to honor it. And I don't know, especially given what a fantastic filmmaker Koreeda is, we want to just make sure it's on people's radars, that people take the time to revisit it. I believe it is newly available on VOD recently, so a good time to circle back to one of the best movies from 2023.
And if you had a top international film, don't yell at us just yet. It will be on this list. Yeah. And if it's not, then you can yell at us right there. But let's move on to sound, our best sound mixing and editing of the year.
Absolutely. Our 5 nominees for the best sound in a film from 2023. At number 5, we're starting off with David Fincher's The Killer, an extremely visceral mix that heightens the tension in many key moments of that movie. At number 4, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a extremely evocative, fun, bouncy mix of sounds that bring to life a myriad of different characters and environments. At number 3, we have John Wick Chapter 4, the intense action film with really precise soundtrack that helps heighten the intensity of several key scenes. At number 2, we have Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's wall-to-wall cacophony of music and effects that really just bowls you over and overwhelms you with the power of that film. But it had to take a pretty special movie to beat those incredible nominees. And I think we picked a pretty special one at number 1, The Zone of Interest from director Jonathan Glazer, a film that you just aren't experiencing fully if you're not paying intense attention to the sound design. I mean, even with the way that the film starts over a black screen as a bunch of sounds come rushing in, I feel is the director sort of telling his audience, you need to be experiencing this through your ears as well. You need to be listening closely and paying attention. Otherwise, you're just not really experiencing the movie that they've put together. And it comes from a extremely long script that they put together that it was just focused on the sounds. But I think they've created a really singular experience through this movie.
This is a category where you can really praise anything that's super technical. You can praise something that's very story-driven. I think this is the embodiment of both. You had mentioned John Wick Chapter 4, which was one of my favorite Dolby experiences. Spider-Verse, some of the best mixing. And even Oppenheimer, we all know. All those got a Dolby release, and Zone of Interest should have gotten one like that as well because of the way that it's mixed. So now that it's at home, hopefully people are able to properly experience the movie because it is one of the most chilling backdrops to a movie for sure.
All right, let's hear from the Intercuties for their pick for best sound in a movie from 2023.
Hello everyone, my name is Sean and I'm here to present the Intercutie Award for best sound. Our 6 nominees due to a tie were Poor Things, Oppenheimer, John Wick Chapter 4, The Killer, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and The Zone of Interest. And the Intercutie Award for Best Sound goes to The Zone of Interest.
Next up, we have the visual effects category where we're blending not just a combination of practicals and also CGI, but anything that they could have worked their magic with in front of the camera that created true movie magic. We have 7 picks here. At number 7, we have Napoleon, a movie that we love for its fighting sequences, but specifically because of what it was able to recreate in those snowy glacier iconic fights that we know Napoleon for. At number 6, we have a horror movie making the list with Megan. They were able to create a series of different robots that had different facial expressions. They also had like body suits where they were swapping out the face, and we needed to honor it because not only is it excelling in horror, but they also created a mode that they've been able to use for a lot of the other Blumhouse movies, so it's a technique that's going to be around for a while. At number 5, we have The Killer. We had mentioned this for sound because it was able to create things that weren't there. Then it turns out half of these sequences weren't even happening where they were happening. They were able to create reflections off of the helmet and full-on fight scenes, chase scenes. We have to give it to The Killer for David Fincher creating things that were never even there. At number 4, we have Oppenheimer, a movie that people were dismissing in VFX. The Oscars didn't even mention it because they didn't think it was CGI enough, when in reality, they were creating things in front of you. There were things in the background that were shifting. There were bombs that were happening on camera, and all of it blew us away, and it deserves a spot in the top 5. But our top 3, it goes to Guardians of the Galaxy for having moments that weren't even with the human characters, but a raccoon and its mutilated partners, animal partners that made us actually cry more than a movie that actually had Bradley Cooper in real life. At number 2, it was struggling right there to get at number 1. But nonetheless, it's still an honor. Godzilla -1. It had the story of the year with having such a small VFX crew, a director who was working on the VFX, a crew that came in decked out in Godzilla wear to create one of the best movies of the year visually. But it didn't break records like our number one, The Creator. This is a movie that was literally redefining how you shoot on location, how you're going to get effects without even having dots on people's faces. And honestly, this is the one that's going to change the industry, and it's why we have to put it at number one for our best visual effects of the year.
Yeah, I mean, The Creator is not a movie that either of us liked particularly. Like we thought,
Stories, booty cheeks,
but it's just undeniable on a visual level.
Impeccable.
I don't know if there's ever been a film that looks quite like it, and the way it is able to integrate its real locations with the visual effects elements placed on top is just feels so lived in a way that sci-fi worlds typically don't manage to. So I agree with you. Like, this is a landmark achievement, and hopefully one that future films will be able to take some lessons from. You know, we did have a pretty long deliberation between whether or not we were going to go with Godzilla -1 or this one, but I think it's ultimately the singular achievement of something like The Creator feels like it's worth spotlighting in the best visual effects category.
It's like they created the what's the wall thing that they have? The
volume.
The volume. It's like the new version of the volume that they've been able to create here. And in 10 years' time, I see them upping up the ante. And I hope Godzilla -1 and their team are able to get another movie. But I think that these type of movies right here, like The Creator, that's what defines this category.
For the best stunts/choreography in a film, at number 7, we put Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, maybe not Part 1 anymore, which has Tom Cruise defying death over and over again, whether it's jumping off of cliffs or going on car chases through Rome. Some amazing action filmmaking in that movie. At number 6 on our list, we have The Killer, which only has spurts of action, but those spurts hit harder than most films do. Number 5, we have Barbie, one of the most immaculately choreographed films, from their beach fight sequence to the extended I'm Just Ken dance number. It's a movie with impeccable blocking and actors performing it impeccably. At number 4, we have Creed 3. The film, directed by Michael B. Jordan, is accented with these amazing sequences in the ring that take inspiration from anime, and it's unlike anything that's come before it in the Rocky or Creed series. In our top 3, we're starting off with The Iron Claw, Sean Durkin's film about the Von Erich wrestling family. Wouldn't have been fully realized if those stunts within the ring didn't feel so convincing and so much like the 80s wrestling that they were trying to depict. It's immaculately done. At number 2, we're going with Ridley Scott's Napoleon, which has put together some of the most epic, wide-ranging battle sequences ever put to film. Just incredible war filmmaking. But the undeniable winner for the best stunts and choreography of the year has got to go to Chad Stahelski's film, John Wick Chapter 4. The stunt coordinator turned action auteur always knows how to deliver devastating blows and incredible gung fu action. And John Wick stands above the rest when it comes to these types of incredible action sequences.
And he's still falling down the stairs. The moment that he went up to Katniss in that one, I knew we got ourselves the best stunts of the year. But that's our combination of both stunts, hard-hitting, punching, action, but then also choreography, which ends up becoming more and more of a separate kind of category the more that we get musicals and such out there. But that's our combination for best stunts and choreography. The Intercuties had some different thoughts.
Hello, my name is Trevor Adams, here to present you the 2024 Intercutie Award for Best Stunts and Choreography. The top 5 nominees as voted on by the Intercuties are Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, stunts coordinated by Heidi Moneymaker. John Wick Chapter 4, stunts coordinated by Scott Rogers and Stephen Dunleavy. The Killer, stunts and fights coordinated by Dave McComber. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, stunts coordinated by Wade Eastwood. Talk to Me, stunts coordinated by Mark Duncan. And the winner is John Wick Chapter 4. Now let's give it up for all stunt performers who put their bodies on the line for scenes that get etched in our memory, such as the Miami Vice scene and the staircase scene, as showcased in John Wick Chapter 4.
Next category that we have is our kind of remixed version of what the original song would be. Instead of going for that one original song, we are going for the best soundtracks, best movie soundtracks of 2024. Starting off, we actually have The Hunger Game, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because, I mean, it's in the title. It had good songs like Can't Catch Me by Olivia Rodrigo, but the one that really stood out to me was Rachel Zegler's performance of Pure as a Driven Snow, something that is impeccable when you got her vocals, but then also really is a gut punch within the movie. The next album that we have is Flora and Son, Apple TV Plus's musical that had hits such as Meet in the Middle, but there was one that kept ringing in our ears, and that was Dublin '07. Next up, we have Theater Camp that makes our number 3 spot, which had a bunch because it was a musical. There was Joan Still's medley, there was Women Cannot Read, but the number one has to be Camp Isn't Home. It was something that we didn't think was going to come together by the end of it. Somehow they magically do. Thank God for the editing. Thank God for the performances. Thank God for Acura for sponsoring Sundance, because they got us one of the best performances from a movie. But at our number 2 spot, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It had bangers like Danger, Nas Morales, Annihilate, and then our favorites, Hummingbird and Am I Dreaming. Honestly, it goes toe-to-toe with the first Spider-Verse soundtrack, and it obviously was going to cement a spot right here. But at number 1, it goes to Barbie. It had Dance the Night Away from Dua Lipa, Pink by Lizzo, which works very well in the movie, I'm Just Ken, which stole it at the Oscars. But it's Billie Eilish who always is going to come in with a song that's going to be the headliner of the year. I'm still listening to her 007 song, and I know we're going to be listening to her song from the Barbie soundtrack. And that's why Barbie gets our number 1 pick for the best soundtrack of 2024.
Yeah, I think there are maybe some songs on that Spider-Verse soundtrack that I've spun a few more times than songs on the Barbie soundtrack. But when we're talking about original songs for a film, Barbie integrates all these songs so impeccably. You know, Barbie wouldn't be the same without I'm Just Ken, without that whole sequence to Dance the Night Away, without the incredible moments to Billie Eilish. I mean, it's just so integral to the structure of the movie. So I think it's a worthy winner in this category because not only are those songs great, but they elevate the movie that they're in. For the Best Original Score Award, we had so many contenders. We ended up with 10 nominees. So in our 10th slot, we're going with Thomas Newman's score for Elemental. In the 9th slot, it's Alexandre Desplat's score for Asteroid City. And number 8th, Joe Hisaishi for The Boy and the Heron. Number 7, The Zone of Interest from Mika Levy. At number 6, we're going with Robbie Robertson's amazing score for Killers of the Flower Moon. Then in number 5, the intense and unsettling score from Gavin Brivik for How to Blow Up a Pipeline. At number 4, the otherworldly and uncomfortable, weird atonal sounds from Jerskin Fendrix for Poor Things. At number 3, it evokes the time period that it's from so well and is just a head-bobbing anthem. Gary Gunn's score for 1001. At number 2, the eclectic multi-instrumentalist work from Daniel Pemberton for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But at number 1, the amazingly composed Ludwig Göransson score for Oppenheimer, something that is so evocative and just elevates the movie with its swirling strings and the amazing repetitive nature of some of the loops that they go on. It just helps to create the overwhelming feeling that is the film of Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Those clashing tempos on a lot of those songs is just beautiful. It feels like the kinetic energy that they're trying to get into the movie. And it's insane that Ludwig started as like a community composer, was it? Then doing songs with Childish Gambino, and now one of the best to do it. Yeah, this was one of those categories where it was just about getting 2 through 10. We knew what number 1 was going to be. But shout out Daniel Pemberton's score. We're going to be dissecting that one all the way till next year. But I am curious to know if the Intercuties also felt the same way.
Hi there, my name's Ewan from the Quiet on Set podcast, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominees and the winner for Best Score. The top 5 nominees chosen by the Intercuties were Past Lives, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. And the winner is Oppenheimer. A very loud score, a very deserving score. Congrats to the winner.
Now we've got our category for Best Film Editing, and we also had to bring it up to 10. At number 10, we have The Holdovers, edited by Kevin Tent, who took us back to the 70s and really made us feel like we were in that boarding school. At number 9, we have Daniel Garber with How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which is edited exactly how it needs to be to have you tense up to that last moment. At number 8, we have Spencer Averick's work for Origin and the drama that takes us into the case system. At number 7, we have Nick Hoy for Barbie, putting us into the dream house of a doll come to life. At number 6, we have Victoria Boydell's work for Rye Lane and being able to match one of the best rom-coms in recent memory. At number 5, we have John Philpott for Theater Camp. Magic that person did with taking everybody's ad-libs and making it into a cohesive feature. At number 4, we have Blackberry and Kurt Lobb's work with a lot of the shots that were shot so far away from these characters that it was up to the magic of different shots that came from different scenes to be able to make one of the best and one of Intercut's favorite movies of the year. But in our 3 top spots, we have Michael Andrews' work for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, going through hours and hours of animated footage to be able to put what is one of the best sequels in comic book history up on the big screen. At number 2, we have the classics, Thelma Schoonmaker for Killers of the Flower Moon, personally making 3 hours fly by in this drama from Martin Scorsese. But at number 1, it's Jennifer Lame's work for Oppenheimer, which... it's Oppenheimer. It's going to be on every single list here. But Jennifer Lame clearly knocked it out of the park with this one. I think the way that she was able to combine a lot of the flashback sequences and flash forward sequences is what really allows the movie to fire on all cylinders, going with the music that we just gave number 1, going with a lot of the other categories that you're going to expect to see Oppenheimer also top.
Yeah, I mean, to have a movie that is 3 hours long feel as propulsive as Oppenheimer does takes some really impeccable editing in the way that it is able to somehow like juggle multiple scenes simultaneously. Like, I love that thing where you kind of are watching 3 different timelines go forward, the way that only I feel like Christopher Nolan movies tend to balance.
And then like a nice little puzzle, it all like perfectly unties itself.
Yeah, it's just an incredible achievement. And, you know, between this and the 3.5 hours of Killers of the Flower Moon, you know, it really shows that like it's not about the length but how you put it together and whether or not you can like keep things riveting. And I think Oppenheimer is just an excellent example of how time can fly by in a movie that is worth sitting for.
Exactly. Even our animations are getting that long with Spider-Verse, but hey, if they're great, keep them coming. Definitely. The Intercuties also had an editing award, correct?
They did. Let's see what they chose for the winner.
Hi there. My name is Luke Dagnese, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominees and winner for Best Editing. The top 5 nominees as chosen by the Intercuties were Anatomy of a Fall, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Rye Lane. And the winner of 2024's Intercutie Award for Best Editing goes to Oppenheimer. I think that Jennifer Lane creates a rhythmic urgency with Oppenheimer's editing that really guides the film throughout its 3-hour runtime. I just wanted to thank Zach and Art for Intercut for the pod and for getting me into attending film festivals with their Sundance coverage every year. Thank you.
Our next category is the best film aesthetic. That's what we're going to go with. The people responsible for the makeup, the socks, the walls. This is a sort of combined visual category where we assess all of the kind of like practical on-set elements that go to create the world of the movie. There are a bunch of different jobs that we're combining under one umbrella, but it's about how these elements all work cohesively together. And I think we've got 10 really interesting nominees here. Starting off with bottoms at number 10. A detail-oriented trip back to retro teen comedies that's full of small jokes and references to other classics from the genre. At number 9, we have Priscilla, which takes us into the world of Elvis and Priscilla Presley, big hair and rhinestone encrusted jackets and all. At number 8, we've got When Evil Lurks, which has some of the most disgusting makeup effects that you're bound to see in a horror movie. At number 7, we have The Zone of Interest, which is a impeccably designed film that relies on its construction to make its message as effective as it is. At number 6, we have the mad chaos of Ari Aster's world in Beau is Afraid, where everything is a threat and everything is gigantic and scary. It is overwhelming and impressive. At number 5, we have Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, the candy-coated textures that Wes Anderson has become known for, and impeccable production design are amped up in this amazing feature film. At number 4, we have Killers of the Flower Moon, which transported us back to the Osage Nation in the 1920s through fully recreated towns and era-appropriate costumes, as well as Leonardo DiCaprio's disgusting yellow teeth. At number 3, we have Oppenheimer, which recreated Project Manhattan with a bunch of practical effects and amazing set design and costume design. He even gets his own superhero suiting up moment in the movie. At number 2, we have Barbie, the pink and blue hued dream world with amazing costumes that call back to classic Barbie designs and just so much fun to look at visually. But our number one film in terms of film aesthetic goes to Yorgos Lanthimos' film Poor Things, a movie that is incredible to look at, from its bizarre textured skies to its weird dreamlike cities, as well as the impeccable makeup work on actors like Willem Dafoe and some really interesting choices when it comes down to the costume design. I also love the story about how Emma Stone's hair ended up that jet black color because she tried to bleach it some other color and it ended up not working out, but it all ends up creating
Beautiful.
this really amazing world in Poor Things.
Beautiful mistakes. I feel like all 10 of these directors you can call auteurs. Like, that's the word that people use, not really when they're trying to describe a person who moves like an auteur, but someone who, like, you can have a film look by. All of these movies, you know, from like Priscilla, we know how Coppola films, from Zone of Interest. I think people have been trying to emulate his approach to movies and how he tries to make them very objective. Ari Aster's a lot at this point, you know. Asteroid City and all of his work has been done to death, that the AI machine came out just trying to replicate a lot of his looks. But I think Yorgos is the one who came in with some of the most fascinating stuff, because Barbie had a lot to pull on. Oppenheimer, Killers, they all had a lot to pull on, and they do it impeccably. But to create this world from Poor Things is just so visionary. He's doing things with lenses that would make us so nauseous in so many other movies, but here it makes it feel otherworldly. It makes it feel like you're scoping into something that you shouldn't, experiments that have gone awry. It's just fantastic. And it's so off-kiltered. A lot of people are put off by it, and it just makes you go like, yeah, if a movie can push you to feel that way, it's awesome. And yeah, we're always looking forward to the next Yorgos world that he creates, because as a lot of his collaborators, especially here where we're combining the makeup departments, production, and the costumes, I think it won a bunch of those awards.
Yeah.
And every single one of those head of departments had to say, thank you for allowing us to be this creative.
Absolutely.
He's a creator's creator right there. Poor Things, number one for sure.
All right, well, let's see what Intercuties chose for best production and costume design in a film.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Chase, and today I am presenting the Intercut Award for Best Film Aesthetic. Now, there's been a lot of heated discussion online about who should take this category. When you win, you join a really elite club of movies, because some previous winners for this category include Cats, The Cat in the Hat, and Dune, the David Lynch version. So with all of that being said, here are the nominees for Best Film Aesthetic: Asteroid City, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Priscilla, and Saltburn. And the winner is Barbie. And if you're really upset about that movie winning anything at all, the Intercut podcast is probably not the best fit for you. So thank you, Zach and Art, for inviting me to the Intercut Awards this year to present. You guys have done this for a couple years now. It's awesome every time, and I wish you another couple years of doing it. So thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Next up, we have the category that without it, you don't have a movie. You'd have a podcast. It is the best cinematography of the year. And again, we went with 10 picks. At number 10, we have a movie that we didn't necessarily love, but we gotta pay respect where respect is due. Linus Sandgren for Saltburn just shot it impeccably with a tall ratio, and where you get into this world where, you know, the shortest of guys ends up being a little too over his head, but it looked beautiful. At number 9, we have Dream Scenario. Benjamin Loeb's work was fantastic in putting you into this world where a man is getting canceled because of the stuff he can't control in the dream world. At number 8, we have All Dirt Road's Taste of Salt, a beautifully shot film that feels like live moments come to life, photographs that you're able to just plunge into. Next up, we have Godland, a movie that takes place in Iceland as you follow this priest trying to spread his word, and by the end of it, you end up seeing that he can't take the terrain and where he's in. Next up, we have Jonathan Rickeborg's The Taste of Things. You can almost smell this movie with everything that they showcase, taking the time to show you all of the steps in the kitchen as they're creating these dishes, and it has some of the best visual cuts from a pair to one of the actors in this movie that is beautiful. Next up, we have the movie that topped our VFX list because it was on location shooting things, The Creator. Shot by Oren Sofer, but at the same time composed by Greg Fraser, who's worked on Dune, worked on The Batman, to create these shots that they were able to film in all of these different parts of the world, and then worried about the VFX afterwards. And it makes a difference. Next up, a little unkiltered here, but we went with Skinamarink, a movie that is just from your nightmares. From the trailer, it's been stuck with me. Jamie McRae was able to create these visuals that felt like a child just noticing a ghost right off the corner. Next up, for our third spot, we have Rodrigo Prieto for Killers of the Flower Moon. The fact that he was filming some of these shots that ended up becoming Oscar moments, like the yell that Lily gives, on the cuff, like on the day, it just shows you that you have one of the masters at work, especially when he's able to get different formats in this movie and different ratios. And number 2, Robbie Ryan for Poor Things. Yet another person who is shouting out Yorgos when it came to creating a world that, as we said, has these spherical lenses. It bokehs out things in the back. Things are long, things are wide. It creates a beautiful world that is unlike anything that we've seen. But at number 1, you can call it standard, you could call it the cliche pick, but it has to be Hoyte van Hoytema for Oppenheimer. There's a reason this man did Nope, and the cinematographer in that movie is based off him and is even wearing his scarf. It's because he's the best to do it. Shot completely on film and even creating black and white stock for IMAX that has never been done before. Oppenheimer was the only movie that had the boys going out on a Saturday night to watch a black and white film, and that's why it gets our number 1 spot for cinematography.
Yeah, I mean, he's become the sort of master of IMAX cinematography between his work with Jordan Peele and here, and he's just really taken what could have been a very small film about a bunch of men in conference rooms talking to each other and lent it this like really epic scale and made it this, you know, huge movie that otherwise could have not felt that way. So just his ability to realize these moments and create that sense of momentum, even if it doesn't feel as action driven as some other movies might, it's incredible stuff.
The fact you can go from Tenet, which I believe he did as well, having that IMAX camera on his back, crashing planes, and then the biggest that you're going to go for IMAX is a close-up, a profile of someone's face, and treating that like the landscapes, just some big brain galaxy stuff right there from Nolan and Hoytema, so easily topping our list. But did it top? I hope it did. The Intercuties list?
Ooh.
Hi there, my name is Stephen J. Swiss, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominees and winner for Best Cinematography. The top 5 nominees, as chosen by the Intercuties, were Asteroid City, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Saltburn, and The Zone of Interest. But the winner of 2024's Intercutie Award for Best Cinematography goes to The Zone of Interest. Congratulations. That movie has phenomenal cinematography. They all do, especially Poor Things and Saltburn. And that movie is one of the greatest movies to ever combat evil. And Intercut, thank you for keeping me up on films and shows and all the good stuff to watch.
In the Best Adapted Screenplay category, our 10 nominees start with Godzilla -1, an incredible monster movie that is also set against the backdrop of a riveting period piece right after World War II in Japan. At number 9, we have Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, a film that adapts the classic Judy Blume book and both treats it with like a reverence, but also deepens its characters by showing you sides that you had not necessarily seen before. Really excellent work from Kelly Freeman Craig. At number 8, we have the incredible film that adapted a manifesto into an edge-of-your-seat thrill ride, How to Blow Up a Pipeline from Daniel Goldhaber and Ariel Barrera, a really intense thriller that you cannot turn away from. At number 7, we have Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig's script for Barbie, a film that has no right being as funny, thoughtful, tear-jerking, or whatever you want to call it, as it does, but it's a project that's been kicked around Hollywood for a while, and they made the absolute best version imaginable of it. At number 6, we have Eric Roth and Martin Scorsese's work adapting Killers of the Flower Moon, taking an epic novel from David Gran and giving it a more personable approach that rejiggers the narrative focus of the story and recenters the narrative on Ernest and the experience of the Osage people. At number 5, we have Jackie McNish, Sean Silkoff, and Matt Johnson's work on Blackberry, an incredible story of the rise and fall of Blackberry that is funny, thought-provoking, and kind of representative of Matt Johnson's whole arc as a filmmaker. At number 4, we have Cord Jefferson's satirical take on the entertainment industry in American Fiction, a skewering piece of comedy writing that also has a resonant family drama at its heart. At number 3, we have Thomas McNamara's adaptation of the Alistair Gray novel Poor Things, a hilarious film that takes the feminist journey of Bella Baxter and sets it against the backdrop of a world that is a parallel twisted version of our own. At number 2, we have Ava DuVernay's adaptation of the Isabel Wilkerson book cast into her film Origin, which treats the writing of this racial theory as if it is this investigative discovery piece, and it's riveting and thought-provoking and just really powerful. But at number 1, like it's won across so many other categories, we could not deny the incredible script from Christopher Nolan in Oppenheimer, which churns through decades of the man's life and sets it across several timelines in a page-turny, edge-of-your-seat, amazing piece of blockbuster filmmaking.
Beautiful. I, without a doubt, knew it had to be this one because they said it was the first one that he was able to do in first person. The more and more we hear about it as well as the man's getting knighted. I want to make sure we put the asterisks on the sir because we don't know when that's happening soon. But it showcases to you that the man was going all in on this being the movie that he did after the deal with WB broke, him going full on with Universal and having inklings in Tenet talking about Oppenheimer and what he represents. Almost making, I like the theory of Tenet being the sequel to Oppenheimer that came out first. The man's just writing on levels that are beyond. You know, he's perfected the time gimmick in his scripts, and it's just like firing on all cylinders. So shout out Christopher Nolan for what I still feel is a diss track to WB.
Let's hear from the Intercuties for their choice for the Best Adapted Screenplay of 2023.
Hi there, my name is Caitlin Wiedeker, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominees and winner for Best Adapted Screenplay. The top 5 nominees, as chosen by the Intercuties, were American Fiction, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And the winner of 2024's Intercutie Award for Best Adapted Screenplay is a tie. Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer and Tony McNamara for Poor Things. Congrats to the winners.
Next up is the Best Original Screenplay, which we also have a top 10 for. Starting off at number 10 is the screenplay for Story Avenue that reminds you that if you don't take care of your home, then no one else will. Next up is Monster that picks at what you can become when you hide who you actually are. At number 8, We have Franklin Rich for The Artifice Girl that takes the fight against AI by surprisingly using AI to fight AI. Anatomy of a Fall is up next, and that still has us asking the question, did she do it? Am I allowed to ask? And number 6 is You Hurt My Feelings, one of the most cringiest comedies that makes you wonder if honesty really is the best way, or if lying to not hurt people's feelings, if that's the correct route to go by. But for our top 5, we have movies that really stood out to us and I think are going to be movies that we talk about on the podcast. From Down Low, written by Lucas Gage and Phoebe Fisher, that gave us one of the most dramatic moments through a character in one of the most belligerent comedies. There was Taste of Things by Tran Ang Hung, who showed us how you can communicate through food, all of your thoughts, your critiques, even your love when you're not there. The Holdovers, written by David Hemmingson, follows 3 people who have been held over and are finally finding a way to go on through. Celine Song comes in at our number 2 spot for Past Lives, a movie that looks back not just at a past lover, but also a past version of yourself and a life you could have had. But at number 1, Zach already knows this, it was always going to be May December by Sammy Birch, simply because there wasn't enough hot dogs.
You never know if there's enough hot dogs. This is just
never know.
An incredible script because it has so many layers to it, from its commentary on the true story that it's based on to the way that it sort of indicts the industry that made this movie itself, right? It is also critical of people who come in and exploit real life situations for their own personal gain. And I think just the layers to this script and the really incredible dark comedic nature of it all is just makes it one of the most interesting scripts that we've seen for a film in the last year.
Yeah, this was like what American Fiction was doing, of making fun of the industry and then waiting for it to get that award.
Yeah.
This was like the one that took the joke like really far. It wanted it to sting. I go as far as I like the double entendre for the May December. I feel like it's, the spring chicken thing that they're talking about in the movie, but also the movie premiered in May at Cannes, opened in December. They knew exactly what they were toying with awards, and I think this was the only nomination the Oscars gave it, but did not have the balls to award it. Not here. This is a movie we're going to be looking back on. The more you see discussions on Twitter with people being confused, take that as a note that it's a very smart script. Sammy Birch, May December, was always going to get this number 1 spot from us here on Intercut.
But did the Intercuties agree with their choice for Best Original Screenplay?
They were mixed on it. Let's see.
Hi guys, my name is Valerio from Italy, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominees and winner for Original Screenplay. The top 6 nominees as chosen by the Intercuties were Anatomy of a Fall, Boys Afraid, The Iron Claw, The Holdovers, May December, and Past Lives. And the winner of 2024's Intercutie Award for Best Original Screenplay goes to Past Lives, which makes me very happy because it's my favorite movie of the year. So it's great to participate. I've been following you since the beginning. I followed Arturo since the A-to-Z show. So thank you guys.
Our next category is going to go to the best role player in a film from 2023. This is a category that we've created for those people who are not quite big enough parts of their films to be considered supporting performances, but without whom their films would have not been the same. This is maybe a little higher than a cameo, but a little less than the supporting category. And we're doing this whole thing in honor of Martin Scorsese in Killers of the Flower Moon, who maybe that's just a cameo performance.
Best cameo.
But it's the thing that elevates the movie the most. So we loved Martin Scorsese's work in that film, both in front of and behind the camera. Let's start off our list with a pair of performers, David Cross and Amber Tamblyn in You Hurt My Feelings, a representation of marriage that feels so true. You might think they actually are married in real life. At number 9, we have Corey Michael Smith from May December. He plays Georgie, Julianne Moore's son from her previous marriage. And even though he's got only limited screen time, he imbues it with so much of his pain and conflicted feelings. He's just a three-dimensional character from the second that he comes on screen. Number 8, we have Tilda Swinton in The Killer, an incredible actress who commands attention from the second she pops up in a movie, and the way that she just carries that moment when Michael Fassbender's character isn't even responding to her. It's all on her face and in her words, and she just keeps you glued to the screen. At number 7, we have Keith David in American Fiction, who has a brief part but is so funny in kind of voicing the conflicted feelings that the character that Jeffrey Wright's playing, and I think Cord Jefferson as well, are dealing with in this film. At number 6, we're going to shout out Matthew Mayer from Air. He plays the sort of disgruntled sneaker designer in the basement in the movie, and he has so many moments where he pulls your attention away from Oscar-winning, Golden Globe-winning actors like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Jason Bateman. So for somebody who is not a gigantic celebrity to be able to do that, you know he must be cooking with something special. At number 5, we have Patti LuPone in Beau is Afraid, who's kind of built up to be this villainous figure in a lot of ways in this epic movie. So you know she has to live up to that moment when she finally does appear in the final third. At number 4, we have Matt Johnson, who directs himself in Blackberry and gives himself all of the funniest moments. He's adds a really fun, chaotic energy to that film. And number 3 is Marshawn Lynch in Bottoms, who was absolutely hysterical, bringing a wholly different energy to this lesbian teen comedy. And number 2, we're going with Louis Cancelmi from Killers of the Flower Moon. There are like 4 or 5 different people we considered from Killers of the Flower Moon from this spot, but ultimately we could not stop thinking about the goofy hoedown dance he does, as well as that just chilling moment when he discusses the potential to murder his family in front of his family. It's going to be a moment that I think sticks with him throughout his career. But our number 1 role player and the winner of this award is going to go to the ultimate mensch, David Krumholtz in Oppenheimer, delivering orange slices and good vibes to a movie that really could use some heart. He is sort of the beating heart at its center.
Easily. I love that he had a post-Oscar campaign just to himself on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, he's making the most of the moment.
He's good vibes.
Yeah. He's a great actor, really just showing a whole new side to himself here.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see who the Intercuties chose as the best role player for 2023.
Hello, my name is Benji Blockile, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominees and winner for Best Role Player. The top 5 nominees as chosen by my fellow Intercuties were Casey Affleck for Oppenheimer, Maya Hawke for Asteroid City, David Krumholtz for Oppenheimer, Cara Jade Myers for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Patti LuPone for Beau is Afraid. But the winner of 2024's Intercutie Award for Best Role Player is a draw between Maya Hawke for Asteroid City and Patti LuPone for Beau is Afraid. Congratulations to those two, and thank you, Art and Zach, for being my main source of movie recommendations. Keep making great content.
Now, we know that the Oscars are going to be doing Best Cast and Director in the coming years, but the thing that we really liked is who they actually cast. And for us, we got our top 5 Best Ensemble movies, starting with number 5, which is Theater Camp. This is a movie that was made up of a bunch of different people, different ages, and all of them came together just to ad-lib and then edited whatever they came up with at the end. And you got a slew of people. I know, Zach, you had a lot of people that stood out to you, like Jimmy Tatro.
Yeah, Io Debris, Noah Galvin, and of course even just the top line people like Ben Platt and Molly Gordon may never have been better than in this movie. But even beyond them, it's all those kids that they cast in Joan Still.
And were even performing outside of the actual movie and doing live performances at Sundance. Next up is a movie called How to Blow Up a Pipeline that we have been discussing as a new short-term 12. This is a movie that had so many up-and-coming talent that's like, they're not even up-and-coming talent anymore because they've already blown up. Mm-hmm. Pun intended, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's people like Forrest Goodluck or Sasha Lane and Lucas Gage, who I feel like we've seen before. There's people like Kristen Froseth or Ariel Barrer, who I think are starting to get more of a name. But even, some of the other people on the seams of that movie, Jamie Lawson, Jake Weary, Marcus Scribner, I think are all going to be people we hear more and more about.
It's like Band of Brothers, but as an eco thriller. And number 3 is a very obvious choice. It's Asteroid City. Wes Anderson's got the cheat code for all of the people that he can get around him, but there was one in particular that I think almost had a better performance than the lead role that she had.
Yeah, I mean, Margot Robbie sort of comes off the bench in the last bit of that movie and just gets one of the best written scenes of the year. She's so incredible in it. But I also think, just even though we don't mention him later, Jason Schwartzman is incredible in the lead here. Jeffrey Wright, who we're going to mention for American Fiction at some point.
The lungs.
He's so good delivering this Wes Andersonian dialogue. You have Bryan Cranston, who kind of is the narrator here, Edward Norton in some cutaways, Adrian Brody. It's just a plethora of riches. You get spoiled looking through a Wes Anderson cast list.
Yeah, Wes comes out with a movie, ensemble and production design should be a given when it comes to that. And then at number 2, we have a movie that had country singers stealing the show for a lot of the scenes, and that is Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moon, which also had a bunch of other ones that we thought were excellent performances, even became memes.
Yeah, I mean, whether it is Jesse Plemons or Brendan Fraser.
He did become a meme too.
Yeah, right. Even like the appearances from people like John Lithgow, the country singers you mentioned, and Jason Isbell or Sturgill Simpson. Yep. Tantu Cardinal. I thought Cara Jade Myers, who played Anna, was like a revelation in the movie. She's so good in it. So yeah, I mean, it's beyond the amazing work from Lily Gladstone, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Robert De Niro. It's a stacked cast.
So yeah, I still have to give it to another movie because this other movie used Academy Award winners as cameos, and that would be Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. At this point, this man is just cooking with grease. He's already mastered the cameos in Interstellar and such, but here, it's ridiculous. I'm going with Casey Affleck for my pick. I don't know if you've got a different one over here.
Ooh, I mean, there's so many to choose from. I love Benny Safdie in this movie. I love Josh Hartnett in this movie. I mean, Matt Damon might be a little bit more in the supporting category, but he's incredible in this movie.
Oh, ensemble, right?
Yeah, Alden Ehrenreich or Rami Malek. There's just
Josh Peck.
Yeah.
President Button.
Hey, how about David Dalsmachian, right? Like terrifying in that bit too.
Finally bringing him back after making him the scariest Joker henchman.
Exactly.
Truman, incredible cameo. I don't even want to spoil in case people don't know who it is, but I've seen some people watch the movie and not even recognize it. Yeah. My brother saw half of Oppenheimer, didn't know it was Robert Downey.
It's
Academy Awards all around.
Yeah, transformational.
Oppenheimer easily takes our best ensemble casting because Nolan does it like nobody else can.
Let's talk about the best juvenile performers. We wanted to shine a spotlight on some of the young actors who are just making a name for themselves, but who really stood out through their work in this year's movies. We're not really even putting most of these in order. It's just kind of a collection of some of the best talent that we've seen. We got Jalen Hall, who really stood out in Bruiser, a really underrated film from earlier last year. We have Abby Ryder Fortson from Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. We've seen her work in some Marvel movies, but here she really gets to shine and cue us into the adolescent girl experience. We have Kristen Cui for her work in Knock at the Cabin, helping to add to the unsettling, uncomfortable atmosphere of that movie. Falcon Lake, you wanted to spotlight Sarah Montpetit.
Fantastic. She is an up-and-comer who's going to be in a lot of movies, and I hope does that break from international movies here to America.
Absolutely. From Anatomy of a Fall, Milo Machado Graner is so incredible in as the son sort of caught between the squabbling and then accused of murder parents.
We had the dog, but it turns out the dog was a little too old. It's a veteran.
Right. We'll give the dog a special jury award for best dog in a movie from last year.
Best doggo.
But our top two, we've got the pair of young performers from Monster who are so good in that film and really help sell the final act of that movie. And then we have all of the young actors from Theater Camp, the performers from Joan Still, who are just so funny in that movie and have a maturity to their sense of humor well beyond their years.
Next up, we've got the best supporting category, and this is going for all performers. We got male, female, Everybody's in here. We got a top 15, and we were making cuts. That shows you how deep we were into this. But let's begin. At number 15, we have Luis Guzman's performance as Luis in Story Ave, a movie that I would highly recommend as one of the best indies out there. At number 14, we had Sterling K. Brown for his performance as the brother in American Fiction, who brings some of the best lines in the movie and is hilarious. At number 13, we have Sakura Ando for Monster, the mother character who's looking out for her kid and is willing to do anything to make sure that they're okay. At number 12, we have Sandra Hüller for The Zone of Interest, a small but mighty role that sticks with you in like the most unpleasant of ways, especially when you consider the other movies that she has out this year, but a standout nonetheless. At number 11, we have Forrest Goodluck from How to Blow Up a Pipeline, really making that ensemble pop for the person who's leading this eco-terrorism. At number 10, we have Rachel McAdams as the mom in Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, turning a leaf that I think has been one of the best performances that she's given and one of the most caretaking performances that she's had out there in this role. At number 9, we have Holt McCallany in Iron Claw, the complete opposite of what I just said about Rachel McAdams, but the man almost believes it. I thought he was better than all of the other kids that were in the movie and just excelled in it. And if he has a show out there, they should probably renew it. At number 8, we have Ryan Gosling in Barbie, a performance that almost took over the movie called Barbie. Incredible musical sequences, incredible monologues, and honestly, it probably has the quotes that are quoted the most out of the film. Shout out Ryan Gosling. And number 7 is a performance that has stood with us since we saw it at South by Southwest. Glenn Howerton in Blackberry, just yelling out that he lives in Waterloo where the vampires are. Incredible performance, and he went all out with the cap too. He did not pull the butler. He actually shaved it. At number 6, we have Robert De Niro as King Hale in Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know how it's this late in the game and we're getting such impeccable performances, but Robert, more of this, less of Bad Grandpa. At number 5, we have Divine Joy Randolph from The Holdovers playing Mary Lamb, who really is the heart of the story up until that last sequence that you see her in. At number 4, we have Julianne Moore for May December, a movie that we gave Best Script, and honestly, I feel has some of the best performances out there. I thought she was a lead. The movie said she was supporting. The Oscars said you're getting nothing. But here she's definitely making it into the top 5. At number 3, we have Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. If this is what he did Marvel for, then I need to see more of the stuff where he goes this crazy because he is bonkers in this film. At number 2, keeping the love for May December with Charles Melton. Someone who I think should have gotten the nomination. At least a nomination, but I know he's melted a lot of people's hearts, and I'm excited that he's out of the YA genre and into more bigger films. But nothing was going to beat the comeback, the MVP award, the most improved player, as he called it, Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss in Oppenheimer. An incredible performance that goes toe-to-toe with Cillian Murphy.
Absolutely. I mean, he needs to be a perfect foil for Cillian Murphy, and he is his opposite in so many ways. But it's even just remarkable to see Robert Downey Jr. working in this mode where he is so transformational. Within his like first 2 line readings, you're like, this is a completely different guy than the guy we've seen across his past, decade and a half last work. He's challenging himself in a way that I feel like he hasn't challenged himself as an actor in quite a while. He's talked about Christopher Nolan sort of giving him the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And he made the most of it. It is so, so compelling.
Took it all the way. Yeah. Rightfully so.
So let's see who the Intercuties chose for the Best Supporting Performer Award.
Hi there, my name is Alina Montemayor, and I'm here to present the Intercutie nominee and winner for Best Supporting Performance. The top 5 nominees chosen by the Intercuties were Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Glenn Howerton in Blackberry, Charles Melton in May December, Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers, Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things, and the winner of 2024's Intercutie Award for Best Supporting Performance is Charles Melton for May December.
With lead performances, we also couldn't limit ourselves to 10. So here are the 15 nominees we chose. Starting with number 15, Virginie Efira from Other People's Children. We have Sandra Hüller's incredible work in Anatomy of a Fall. Koji Yakusho is number 13 for his performance from Perfect Days. In number 12, we have Margot Robbie, who led the way in a hilarious performance as a doll brought to life in Barbie. In number 11, we have the 3-hour anxiety attack of Beau is Afraid, led by Joaquin Phoenix. At number 10, Anjanou Ellis Taylor, who took us on an incredible journey as her character took on a immensely difficult task of a unifying racial theory in Ava DuVernay's film Origin. At number 9, we have Jeffrey Wright, who was hilarious and real as Thelonious Monk in the satire American Fiction. At number 8, we have the incredibly tender performance from Andrew Scott in All of Us Strangers. At number 7, we have Natalie Portman's incredible chameleonic work in May December. It's both a meta text and a reflection of other people in the film. At number 6, we're going with the absolute chaotic bisexual energy of Franz Rogowski, who put his back into his Passages performance. At number 5, we have the incredibly powerful and tear-jerking performance from Tiana Taylor, who led 1001 to be one of the most emotional films we've experienced in 2023. And number 4 is the powerful and headstrong performance from Lily Gladstone, who has to endure so much as her character in Killers of the Flower Moon. At number 3, we're going with Cillian Murphy's work as Robert Oppenheimer in Oppenheimer, the enigmatic and compelling scientist who brought together the people responsible for the atomic bomb. At number 2, we're going with Paul Giamatti's cantankerous professor named Paul in The Holdovers, the only man fit for that kind of lovable crank position. But number 1 is the most transcendent film performance we've had all year, an incredibly hilarious, dramatic, brave bit of acting. Emma Stone working at the maximum of her powers, making Poor Things one of the most hilarious and thought-provoking films from last year, is our best performance in a lead role. Art.
So good she couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, this was sort of an unexpected Oscar winner, but as much as it felt wrong to see Lily Gladstone lose, it also felt right to see Emma Stone take home a statue for what is truly, truly incredible work.
I think it's the best performance she's done in her filmography so far. Would you say that Paul Giamatti and Cillian gave their best performances in these two?
I think Paul Giamatti is more arguable. I can't think of a Cillian Murphy performance I like more than Robert Oppenheimer. So it's definitely possible for all of them. But yeah, I mean, Emma Stone, even though she won the Oscar for La La Land, is incredible in that. I think this performance just really plays into the things that make her special as an actress. And it really allows her to be funny in a way that I think she's really, really funny.
Yeah. Just the length of what she goes, what she becomes is like the longest journey. A lot of these characters, fantastic journeys, but they start in one place that they've been stuck in and need to be released. This is a baby coming to fruition. I think it's incredible to even look at some of the other ones like Natalie Portman that we mentioned, but especially Tiana Taylor. Mm-hmm. This is one where I feel I am so confused by the omission of her from this specific movie that was not that tiny for press and critics and award contenders, because now that she's in your boy's next movie, she is going to get a slew of nominations for the next one. But we want to let y'all know she's worthy of the praise right now in our top 5 for 1001.
Yeah, so many great performances from the last year.
Your boy is Paul Thomas Anderson too, by the way.
Yes. We just couldn't leave some of these names off the list. There were just so many that we wanted to spotlight. There's even more that we were thinking about.
There is even more, which is why y'all should go check out the Intercut Patreon, where we have a couple of these things mentioned into more fruition, 3 hours worth as well, so that you can see our deliberations going through each and every single one of these. Because I'm sure we get new Intercuties who come in. They're like, why is this above this one? We've discussed it on the channel, but we have a whole 3 hours discussing every single pick here and how we got there as well.
Yeah, make sure to head over to patreon.com/intercutpod and become a donor, even if it is for just a month, to get access to some behind-the-scenes material, including the 3-hour video where we deliberate all these different categories and talk a little bit about how we go about making our decisions into these different categories.
I think it should be Nolan.
It's Nolan's year. Like, it's undeniably Nolan's year.
I'm not going to be the one to stop
And
that.
I love Killers of the Flower Moon, but it's probably not even a top 5 Scorsese movie. I have it 6 right now.
I hate you're right, but you might be right.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer's not top Nolan.
Oh, that's a good question. Is Killers or Oppenheimer higher on your rankings? I have Oppenheimer as my 4th favorite Christopher Nolan movie.
But he has worse movies than Martin Scorsese does. Am I wrong?
That's a good point.
I'm not lying.
That's a good point.
Did our New York Critics Circle thing right there with our
Exactly.
with our intercut stuff. You want to know what else they get? They get to have us hand it over to them for what their best lead performance is when you're an Intercutie over at the Patreon.
Exactly. Let's hear from Josh what the Intercutie choice for the best lead performance in a film from 2023 was.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh and I am here to announce the nominees and winner for the Intercutie Award, which is for lead performance. The top 5 nominees as chosen by the Intercuties were Zac Efron, The Iron Claw, Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers, Sandra Hüller, The Zone of Interest, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. And the winner was Emma Stone for Poor Things. Congratulations, Emma. Amazing performance. I just want to say thank you to Intercut for allowing me to come on and announce this award. And thank you for the opportunity. Keep doing what you're doing. You guys are amazing. And I will see you guys all soon. Peace.
Rounding up our last 3 categories, we wanted to give a shout out to a lot of the up-and-comers. So we want to just list people, projects, really directors that we're looking forward to in the future.
People who've maybe made only 1 or 2 movies, but are basically at the beginnings of their career. And we're kind of calling this the Past Lives Award because even though Celine Song is making her debut with Past Lives, that movie is done so well across categories. I think it's fair to say she's not exactly an up-and-comer. She's arrived.
Sometimes you're so number one, you're not getting the number 1 spot, you're getting the title right off there. So in honor of that movie, which obviously took so many chances away from a lot of these movies over here, we want to shout them out. I want to start off with The Year in Between, which comes from Alex Heller, written by Alex Heller, starring Alex Heller. She's a Chicago native who made this movie about the year in between that she took from college in order to be able to just take a mental health break as she got diagnosed with certain things she didn't know about. The next one is a movie that premiered in Toronto called Reptile, a mystery thriller that's out on Netflix that a lot of people, they had mixed emotions with it, but I felt that there was something really special there. And it comes from Grant Singer, who's worked on a lot of other stuff for Netflix and music videos. But I'm very curious for what he has in store. I'm putting my stock right now in this category on this man having a future hit. The next one that we have is for the movie Rice Boy Sleeps, directed by Anthony Shim, which was a standout indie film from the festival that we really liked. Not just the performances that he was able to get from young actors, but also the way it was shot. It felt like something that you don't expect from a first-time feature director. So with more under his belt, I'm excited to see what he has in the future. A movie that we had already mentioned was Story Avenue, a drama that comes from Aristotle Torres, who has done a lot of music videos. He's worked with J. Cole, he's worked with a bunch of brands. What he's able to do with this movie, I think, is really speak from the heart in a way that a lot of other movies try to, but don't really embody because sometimes it's an outsider. This man knew what he was telling with Story Ave. Next is Upon Entry, an independent movie that we caught out of South by that just blew us away. This is a movie that when you hear about it, you Google it, you see how high the rating is, and you wonder why you never heard about it. It's because you're not subscribed to the Intercut podcast. Check this one out. It's directed by Juan Sebastian Vasquez and Alejandro Rojas. Next up is Bruiser. It's playing on Hulu, and this is directed by Miles Warren, who did the short version of Bruiser, and I believe released it at Sundance.
Yeah,
we
I think
loved
so.
it. It topped our list. Then the man comes and he makes a feature film that's even better than the short. It's out on Hulu. It's a tough watch, but a necessary one. Go catch it. Looking forward to what he has in the future. But moving on to our 1, 2, 3, 4. We have Talk to Me. That's a duo. The Philippi brothers, who we know a lot from YouTube. We've been rooting for them. This is not your YouTube original feature. This is a feature Sundance production right here. The highest grossing A24 film, at least at its time, already has a sequel in the works. Look, we love YouTubers here. You know there's a lot of YouTube filmmakers out there. There's a reason why we've only mentioned 2. It's because they worked on the same movie together, and it's called Talk to Me. At number 3, we have Rye Lane, playing on Hulu, directed by Rain Allen Miller, who has a vision. This one was written by Nathan Byron and Tom Melia, who put together a rom-com that actually feels fresh. Many times we're hitting the same basic beats, and that's enough for a Netflix. But this is a Sundance movie that took it to the next level, showed you parts of the UK that you don't usually go to, shot in a way where it's not this dizzying, almost carousel fisheye lens, but it was actually done on a very wide lens that allows you to capture everything in frame. And the editing, the VFX, and honestly the performances here are all standouts. I'm looking forward to everybody who was involved in this movie and just looking forward to what they have in the future. At number 2, All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt. Got a cinematography nod, but I have to give the nod to Raven Jackson and her approach here. It is one of the most sentimental movies. It is one that you just have to give yourself into. The narrative itself is very poetic, and I think was a standout movie from Sundance that we've recognized all the way through here. And at number 1, we are giving it to Chloe Dumont for Fair Play, a movie where she took up-and-comers, people who have starred in shows, and got some of the best performances out of her 2 leads, wrote the movie herself, based it on personal stuff, and I believe already has a deal with Netflix and T Street, which is owned by the one and only Knives Out creator.
Ryan Johnson, yeah.
Ryan Johnson. These are just some of the ones that we wanted to highlight here. We're also curious on other people's thoughts down below. Do we have an Intercutie one for this?
No, we don't have one for this, but yeah, I'd be curious to see in the comments if some Intercuties have ideas for best up-and-comer potential nominees, because, it's one thing to come out with a great film, but it's another thing to follow it up with more than that. And I think, these are all people who have come out of the gates with such a clever idea or such a clever ability to execute on their premise that it just makes us extremely interested to see what else they have up their sleeve, what else they could be hiding.
Our stock's full in. Mm-hmm. Don't disappoint us.
All right, let's talk about some of the best directors of the year. We have 7 nominees here. The 7 who stood above everyone else in terms of their guidance of their various motion pictures. We'll start things out with Yorgos Lanthimos and his work on Poor Things, the otherworldly comedy with incredible monstery sci-fi elements, just a very amazing vision from that team assembled by Yorgos Lanthimos. At number 6, we've got Justine Triet and Anatomy of a Fall, a really compelling did she, didn't she mystery that feels extremely lived in and has great performances all around. At number 5, we're going with Jonathan Glazer's work on The Zone of Interest, a really bold choice for approaching a story like this, but one that speaks volumes without having to explicitly underline the themes within its story. At number 4, we have Barbie from Greta Gerwig, who assembled a pop madness comedy that is hilarious and fun and thought-provoking and managed to make the highest grossing movie of the year also something that has some intellectual and comedic merits. May December from Todd Haynes takes our 3rd slot, a extremely compelling examination of true stories turned into tabloid fodder and ripped from the headlines movies. That it looks at actors, it looks at predators, it looks at regular people and how their relationships are affected when they're so close to chaos. It is a extremely compelling film and one of the best ones from last year. At number 2, we're going with Killers of the Flower. Wait, we ended up.
I'm sorry, I had to switch it on you. I'm having second thoughts. Intercuties. You know what the top 2 are.
Okay.
We
Let's
deliberated.
Talk it out. Yeah.
We got to talk this out.
So our top 2 slots are going to Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon and Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. We have kind of gone back and forth on this.
We have
so
been
much
going
so
back
that
and forth.
You switched it up while I was in the middle of reading the document.
We're due 1.
Yeah.
1 tie.
That's true. We when we first did these Intercut Awards, we tied for Best Picture, but nothing has taken a tie. And in fact, we got a tie from the Intercuties already. So aren't we entitled to one too?
What did they tie?
I think they tied for Best Role Player.
Okay. Well, they're practically role players.
Yeah, sure.
I think that you and I have been flip-flopping Nolan and Scorsese and Nolan and Scorsese. And the one approach we have is that the film itself, I think we made a clear distinction. But boy, do we keep going back and forth on the best director.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is undeniably Christopher Nolan's year in many ways. He won the Oscar for Best Director. Oppenheimer was kind of the prestige sensation of the year. It's sort of been his crowning moment. But
what man ended their movie with him coming out going, I did y'all dirty?
There is a really incredible achievement to Scorsese's work in Killers of the Flower Moon, something that really feels like only a filmmaker of his stature, of his ambition, of his scope could kind of accomplish. I don't know. I'd be okay with a tie here if you really want to give ourselves this one.
I say tie, or Sir Nolan edges it out maybe just by a bit.
You know what? Let's make it a tie. We didn't do any ties. It's our awards.
This is our one tie?
This is our one tie.
Awards. You call in the producers.
We can make this our new tradition. We are allowed to make one tie per year.
One tie. And while the Nolanites may not agree with it, the Scorsese Nights might have a word with y'all. I'm torn between. This really is the one category that I think I have tied. Even between performances, I think we had clear front runners. You edged out Scorsese, though. That is what's happening here. You edged out Scorsese.
I did.
I edged out Nolan, and now we're trapped in the middle, and we have to give it to Wim Wenders for Perfect Days. I'm just kidding, bro. Stop.
I know. Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is fair. We've had a lot of trouble with this category specifically because we really want to honor Scorsese, but we can't overlook Nolan. It would feel weird to overlook Nolan.
There's one thing you and I always do, and that's that there's always one that we do by numbers. My top 10, your top 10, we combine the math, and they teeter-totter, right?
Yeah.
And the only ones that we ever consider ties are the ones that it's a new day, and things keep changing on these two. It's specifically for the directing role.
Yeah.
Martin, Christopher, you're both number one in my heart this year. I'm sorry.
We love you both. We can't choose. So we'll split it. The Best Director prize going to both Christopher Nolan and Martin Scorsese. But the Intercuties only chose one as their Best Director of the year. And that person got more than 50% of the vote. So let's hear from Alan for the Intercuties choice for Best Director in 2023.
What is up, everybody? Alan here, aka Random Man or RRM, presenting Best Director. The 6 nominees are Greta Gerwig, Barbie, Jonathan Glazer, The Zone of Interest, Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things, Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Celine Song, Past Lives. And the winner is Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer. Congratulations to my favorite filmmaker working today for making this 3-hour epic, tragic biopic not only my favorite film of 2023, but also what I now consider to be his magnum opus.
All right, we've gone through all the nominations, all the categories, all the worthy movies, but we have to decide what is worthiest. We're down to the Best Picture, the Intercut Award of 2023, the Intercut Movie Award of the year. This is separate from the best movie of the year. We did our top 10s. Those are our personal favorites. We're speaking about the film community now. Like, we are the objective deciders of what was important in cinema.
So they say.
Exactly.
These are the 10 that define this year. When we look back on it, we know people are going to go like, oh, movies like maybe Iron Claw at 12 and Bottoms at 11.
And here's the other thing, right? Like, we are deciding winners of all these categories, but really, I feel like what we're deciding are like Hall of Fame classes, right? Like, these are
my viewpoint of this,
the group of performers who were amazing actors in 2023. This is the class of cinematographers that made amazing visuals in 2023. And when we're getting to Best Picture, these are just movies, as you said, that really defined our past year of going to the theater.
We don't have to have the same number one, but I can guarantee you in all these lists, we're putting you onto something new that will make your must-watch list. So let me start with the bottom half. At number 10, we have a movie that we could not deny in Blackberry. The drama-comedy that takes the idea of the creation of the BlackBerry cell phone and pretty much makes it the movie of a filmmaker and the struggles he has to go through with being the producer, being the director, and sometimes being the person who's in front of the camera as well, taking it all. Blackberry gets our number 10 spot. And number 9 is the comedy drama, really a satire depending on who you ask, called American Fiction, that made it all the way to the Oscars and was able to take some gold just like the story was saying it would be. I think this is a beautiful movie that really breaks down what it's like to be a journalist, to be a writer, someone who's in the industry and realizes what makes it tick. And it's really about trying to get ahead of that before you get left behind. And number 8 is probably one of the most outstanding adaptations because of the way that it's able to take a book that has a thesis, that is really just a manuscript that's breaking down the case system, and then turns it into a drama, a narrative that's looking at how that book came to be. So it's more so the behind the scenes of it. Origin by Ava DuVernay takes, I think, all of the filmmaking prowess that she's had and puts it up a notch. I think it is beautifully shot, has one of the best performances she's been able to conjure up from an actor, and I think it has some gut punches. It does some crazy swings as well, but there are moments in this movie, especially in the middle, when you see the character learn things as you learn it as the audience, that I think were some of the most profound movie moments of last year. And number 7, we're welcome to all genres here, including the medium of animation. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse wasn't just our number 1 animated feature, it is one of the best movies of the year. It was better than the first one, and that one was already incredible. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse amped up what it's like to be a sequel, it amped up what a comic book movie can be, and it showed you that animated movies, they're not just for kids. And number 6, this is not for kids. Poor Things, streaming on Disney Plus. One of the best movies that we have been honoring all throughout this award show, throughout all the categories, and there is a reason for it. And of course, it was going to end up in the top 10. Maybe best Yorgos movie, or at least top 3. We are yet to discuss because the man's got another movie in the works already. Yeah. But Poor Things rounds out the bottom half of our top 10 of the year.
Starting off with number 5 as we get into the top 5 best pictures of 2023. We're going with Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese's mournful reevaluation of American Manifest Destiny and an elegiac dedication to the lost people of the Osage Nation, a really beautiful masterwork from a master filmmaker. At number 4, we're going with The Holdovers, Alexander Payne's dramatic comedy, dramedy, whatever you want to do, set at a Massachusetts boarding school where broken people help heal other broken people. At number 3, we're going with Celine Song's film Past Lives, an incredible story about paths taken and the types of person that we could have become if only things had played out differently. Really beautiful and somewhat romantic film with amazing lines that will be forever burned in your brain. At number 2, we're going with the Todd Haynes film May December, a dark comedy about being a predator, being the subject of a predator, and being the subject of scrutiny for an entire nation that thinks they know who you are when you don't even know who you are. But at number 1, it really could be no other film. The Intercut Award for Movie of the Year is going to Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, a propulsive, incredible, captivating 3-hour epic chronicling Robert Oppenheimer's life and his journey to creating the atomic bomb and reckoning with the damage that it's brought. Art, I think we made the right call. I think we did it.
Hey, I had been calling Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon 08's No Country for Old Men, and
There'll Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
The oil movie is my favorite every year, but the one that said that this country is no longer for old men was always going to take the top spot. It is probably one of the best releases theatrically that I think we've had in like recent memory, because I can't think of anything else that had almost Oscar bait written all over it, and no one called it that once. It's got everything the King's Speech had, everything that all of these other movies that come out towards the end of the year, but they released it as a blockbuster. Never in my life would I have thought that an old black and white talking movie would be up there, but it is on the top half of Nolan's filmography, the same way that Killers is, and I think truly speaks as one of the best movies of the year. One of the movies that we will be talking about this in 2030 when we're gathering up everything for this year as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of the film that's dominated discussions both in film circles and non-film circles. I think it's really made a gigantic splash and a gigantic impact in a way that films about serious subject matters like this generally don't. And, you know, just that ability to sort of transcend audiences, transcend groups of discussion and just stick out as a important piece of cinema that should be consumed and by mass audiences. It speaks to the reputation that Nolan's built and the quality of the film that he's delivered. But you know,
walk that talk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But 1 through 10 on this list, I think we've found a bunch of films that are both highly entertaining and really thought-provoking. You know, these are all movies with really serious ideas on their minds, but also movies that know that in order to bring audiences in, you have to tell a riveting story.
I agree. I think all of these are movies that are going to be hard to get kicked out when you're making what would be the top 10 of the decade, but especially looking at that top half. I mean, I'm even including Spider-Man, Poor Things right there at the edge. All of those could clear for me. I think all of these are movies that I want to own and have in my collection.
Yeah. But our choice for the Intercut Film of the Year might not have been the same choice that the Intercuties went with. And in order to announce the Intercutie Award for Film of 2023, let's throw it to a very special guest to make the announcement.
It's an honor to be here, Zach. So first off, who are the nominees for Intercutie Best Movie of the Year? Blackberry, The Holdovers, How to Blow Up a Pipeline. I'm sure Zach had nothing to do with that influence. Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and The Zone of Interest. And the winner is My Eyes See Past Lives. Yes, Past Lives. Congratulations, Intercuties. You have good taste.
And that is all of our Intercut Movie Awards. Look, we have our top 10 personal picks that you can go catch. We even have hidden mentions. All of our underloved, underappreciated movies that we made a whole list for. We have so much coverage on the channel, but here we wanted to compile our time capsule of what the year 2023 meant for us. We appreciate for all of the Intercuties who participated, not just in voting, but also giving us the videos, and everybody who just watches, all of the lurkers. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching this video. Let us know your recommendations down below, because we always make this a two-way street. A lot of these recommendations honestly came from y'all letting us know, hey, make sure that you're checking this out at a festival and such. But other than that, you can catch more of me at LME Movies on all social media. Zach, where can they catch more from you?
You can catch me at Zshevich across social media or at Multiplex Show, anywhere you can find videos.
And you can catch all of our streams, videos, all that good stuff here on the Intercut podcast. We post weekly, we post annually, midway through the year. We're posting all the time. Definitely check out the Intercut podcast channels over on Apple, over on Spotify. You can catch us over at the Intercut Patreon, where, like we said, we have our entire deliberation. So if you're looking at something going like, how'd they get there? All of it's broken down on the channel, but that's a lot of footage. You can go over there and check out the very tiny 3-hour deliberation that we had. Some really good moments in there. We'll be cutting some up and also showing it at the end here. But follow us every week for new Intercut movie-related news. And until next time, keep watching movies, and we'll see y'all later.
Wait, the wrong envelope. You read the wrong envelope.
Oh, shoot. My eyes see.